What's up? I'm Josh. I work as a part of the BD team at Django. Been here for 3 years. Uh, what is my one piece of advice that I could give anyone looking to start in the field? Um, well, I feel like just wing it. Like it's not something that you should do. Like it's not something that you plan doing or plan off doing as such. You can just take it as it comes, and you don't have to stress about the future too much. Just take your time. It doesn't have to be rushed. You're not gonna be a millionaire in like a day.
Hey, I'm Natasha. I lead the BD team at Django. I think it's very important to know that if you're coming into the field of digital marketing, business development, you can't really plan for it much. Of course, those who plan for it, great. You set premise for what you want to do. I started out studying commerce, and I'm now in a very different field. So I think my advice is don't restrict yourself to what you've studied or where you've been. Keep your avenues open. I started out with commerce. I then went into PR. I went into influencer marketing, and I'm now in business development. So I think avenues are far and wide. All you need to do is identify them and kind of be open to exploring them yourself.
Hey Natasha, what's up?
How's it going, Josh?
Good, good, good. You have basically experienced like both worlds, right? You experienced the traditional side, you experienced like the new age also, like for digital marketing, not in digital, like just agencies in general.
Yeah.
Right. So my first question is, what is your thoughts on it? Do you think one world is better than the other? Do you think?
I think it's kind of unfair to say like if one is better than the other. I think both have their pros and cons, right? With a traditional agency which has been around for like decades and they've been in the industry, been with the top clients, you see a bit of difference because you end up seeing that since they've been around for much longer, they also have a very high level of experienced people. Right. So those agencies I end up run by people in their late 40s, 50s who bring that kind of experience and expertise to the table. When you come to a younger agency, it's all fresh blood.
Right.
So I think both have their pros and cons because I feel like sometimes when I was with a larger agency, I feel like the top level management is a little not in touch with what's happening in the ground reality. What is the crux of digital marketing? They're trying to make their way into it without actually knowing whether it works or not. They haven't tried or tested it before. With a younger agency, what happens is they've grown up in that zone. They've grown up in that space and they exactly know how to position themselves, how to make it work. But the caveat here is that with a younger agency, people think that they lack experience.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I think that's where the gap comes in. But then it depends on how you pitch yourself as an agency to kind of ensure and assure the client that you can make it work irrespective.
Yeah. I also feel like especially for a younger agency, right? It's people always say like, just because you're younger, you're so inexperienced. But honestly, a lot of young people have the drive to like,
Absolutely.
do crazy things that, the traditional folks will be they'll do it, but they'll always have that doubt, they'll always have that second thought.
Yeah.
Because that experience they have, like they in their mindset knows that certain things work, certain things don't work. So to try something that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or
I think it's like, for example, when the whole shift happened, I think this was around 2019. I was working in PR at that time.
Right.
That's when there was a gradual shift into influencer marketing. It started booming around then. And I remember lines started getting blur. While traditional PR is very different, influencer marketing is of course very different now, but back then it used to kind of fall into the same segment. So while I did traditional PR, I was also told to kind of get influencers to do the online PR is what they called it.
Right.
And now you see where it's kind of grown, right? So they were trying to dip their toes in the water and see, oh, this is digital marketing.
Right.
And now you have agencies dedicated to doing that. So I think there's been a vast shift between this as well.
Yeah. And I think even brands, like, they've realized that there's such a bigger world in digital. Like, you can reach people so much more easier and like more cost effective.
Yeah. But there's so many small agencies now that you go to think of it.
Yeah.
Boutique agencies. There's an agency for every single niche point of your marketing that you need.
Yeah.
There are agencies specifically for branding, for marketing, for social
print.
media. Yeah, exactly. For everything that you think of.
Yeah. For sure.
Cool. I think just moving on from that, I want to like digress into the agency segment, right?
Yeah.
The agency life. I
Right.
think this is a term as people working in agencies, we hear it all the time from our non-agency friends like, oh, you're just living an agency life. How does that work? Do you want to like give me a little insight on how that's different from a 9 to 5, a typical 9 to 5?
So the one thing that I think pretty much defines an agency life or that term in general is in terms
Yeah.
of like the overall work hours.
Yeah.
I feel like agencies in general don't have like a stop time. They have a start time, which is like usually like 9 or 10
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's very common practice for people to like work till late hours, like work insane hours, even weekends included, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is the main sort of characteristic for this
Agency
life that we all have.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
at this point, it's pretty much become a meme
Yeah.
that everyone in the industry knows it, they recognize it, but there's
Yeah.
like, what do we do?
Oh,
Like,
my friend works in an agency. I don't think they'll make it for this dinner.
yeah, yeah. Especially on a weekday. Weekday, though, they don't exist.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
in a social circle, you just forget about it.
Yeah.
You know, like at least at Django, like it's a little bit better. You know,
Yeah.
you have manageable work hours where people like there's a hard stop
It gets
time.
worse in different places.
It gets so bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
But,
think with a typical 9 to 5, as you said, you have those very defined timings. But when it comes to just managing it, I don't think it's very easy to do that because,
Yeah.
as you said, there is a start time, but hardly ever a stop time.
Yeah.
So I remember when I wanted to like get into the whole work-life balance of things, I was like, okay, my morning time is my time for doing things that I want to do. I want to
Right.
upskill. I want to work out. I want to do different things. But after that, once you get into the rut of working, you're on client calls constantly. They call you up at 8 p.m. Okay,
Yeah.
listen, this isn't
Yeah.
working right now.
Yeah.
And you have to make sure it happens because it has to go live tomorrow.
Right.
There's really no option there.
Yeah. Especially working in like in a marketing space, right? Everything is urgent. There's always deadlines. Like, and especially
Everything is due yesterday.
yeah. That's the thing, right? And even clients they also sometimes come with late briefs. They also like come with ridiculous timelines that they
Yeah.
expect you as an agency to cover because
Yeah.
of course you're the agency.
You have to figure it out.
You have to figure it out. Figure it out. Too bad, bro. Like actually, it's like it's kind of crazy sometimes. But you know, I feel like in the good side of things, those briefs also like sometimes when you do quick work or you do work under pressure, it oftentimes comes out quite well. You know.
Yeah.
Like especially when sometimes even from personal experience, right? When you have a really long timeline for say something for like 3 weeks, you're like 3 weeks is like that's like 3
You
years.
procrastinated to the
It's-
end.
Yeah, you think
Yeah.
it's so long, you know,
Yeah.
like you can take your time,
Yeah.
do it easily. But then whether it comes around, you're like, okay, now it has to get done, and then you
Then
sit.
it's in the last 24 hours when you're like running like I need to get this done.
Yeah. It's like it's that moment where you gotta get going, like you
Yeah.
know, otherwise you're screwed.
I don't
Otherwise-
think anyone should technically know the workings behind how we crack these briefs and
Yeah.
how we actually adhere to these timelines because I think that's when clients will be like, oh, you can do it in 24 hours, give it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
For
think
sure.
I've heard of like this one company or agency rather where they would be giving you a brief to crack and there would be a deal where you would get one brief per day and you would get like 24 to 48 hours to crack that brief and give it, and then if you win it, you win it, and there would be like multiple agencies involved in this.
What is this game show,
Rat race.
bro? That's crazy.
Yeah, essentially.
Jeez, that's like. Are they like bidding for this or like this is just
You
like
gotta, yeah.
It's like you just show up like a
24 to
contestant.
48 hours, you crack it, and whoever gives like the better costs and better ideas, you get through. That's one way to do it.
That is one
I
way
hope
to
our
do
clients
it.
don't watch this.
Yeah. But also from the more creative lens, right? Like especially like those 24 hours to 48 hours.
Yeah.
You still have to like brainstorm and come up with creative ideas, which is the fun part of things, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Like it keeps things fresh, especially like when you get new briefs in, especially us working on the BD side of things, we don't
Yeah.
have to stick to one brand.
Absolutely.
Right,
yeah.
and-
I think we end up working with such a vast portfolio of brands.
Yeah.
Right from like a finance to makeups to I remember we worked on an insurance brand once upon a time.
Right.
I think it's so vast. Like you end up learning more about different industries, and that's a pretty cool addition.
Experience. Yeah,
to
yeah.
to the entire experience.
Yeah, for sure. And especially some people we know also like get very monotonous sometimes, and you're working
Yeah.
on the same brand, right?
Yeah,
Dealing with the same
yeah.
clients, dealing with the
Yeah.
same people. Like the things we have heard. Oh my god, like bro.
Can we disclose any?
Yeah. We have to keep it PG, of course. Speaking of like good work and good campaigns, right? We've all seen like our own fair share of like really bad campaigns and stuff like that. What do you think is like the main thing that, what is the core of like a really good campaign, you know? Like what do you think goes into a really good campaign that really makes it shine, that gives you not even awards, but gives you recognition
Yeah.
that, you know, it's not a complete dumpster fire, right?
That's
So,
putting it lightly.
yeah.
I think the like crux to a good campaign is there's so many layers to it, right? We can't just pinpoint on one thing. It literally starts with getting a good brief from a client and decoding that brief so well that you're able to then crack it. Now, it's not always that you can crack it on the first go. It can take multiple tries. And which is what I think some clients don't end up realizing is there is so much added layers to the work that we do behind the scenes that, you know, it takes time.
Yeah.
And I think getting a good brief in the first go is not very common, but it's ideal for cracking a good campaign. And I think, of course, followed by core research that's done.
Right.
Because I think any brand, right? I don't think we know all the industries, all the genres, all the companies that exist out there.
Yeah.
One day, as you said, we could be working on like a finance brand, other day like makeup brand. So I think to understand what the market is like, what the industry is like, what are the competitors doing, I think that research in a quantitative and a qualitative analysis is very important to set the foundation of how we then build into the actual strategy that we build out for the clients.
Yeah. Especially like, for sure the research is like important, because you can't like if you do it without research, there's a good chance that you come up with a campaign that, you know,
Has either been done before or...
yeah, like the thought is literally copy pasted, and then it creates like bad buzz for the brand, you know.
But don't you think like clients, a lot of time they ask us that, oh, we want a viral campaign?
Yeah, bro. Half the time I wanna ask them, do you know what the meaning of viral is?
Yeah.
Like, because
How do you plan it?
Yeah,
You can't.
It's impossible, because it just happens, right?
Yeah.
Like either like, God forbid, the algorithm, you know, the almighty algorithm picks it up, and you know, it just goes crazy, because we've had our own fair share of reels who have done that.
Yeah.
Right. It, for whatever reason, one reason or another, people have really resonated it, and the algorithm has picked it up and pushed it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the problem that happens is that it's not something that's really replicatable. You know, for one brand, if we do that same concept, I mean, take that same concept that went viral,
Yeah.
and move that to another brand, it won't work.
Even if you pick up the same person to do it, I don't think that can happen.
Yeah.
It all depends, right? I think it's all in the moment.
Yeah.
And when clients see something like that, they're like, hey, I want to replicate the same thing. And I think they don't understand, because there's like two layers to it. They ask us, give me something that hasn't been done before, but give me something that we can see other brands have done. How do you get that? You can't, right? It's like asking me to do one while there's another layer to it. It absolutely doesn't work.
Yeah. Basically, give me fresh, but also not fresh.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
How? Yeah.
But like, speaking of like strategies and what makes a good campaign, I want to like ask you, what is the wildest campaign idea that you've given? It could have been executed. It's possible that you haven't done it, but like, what is the wildest thing that you've ever pitched, rather?
So, I mean, this wasn't really a part of the pitch, but there was this one wild idea, okay?
Yeah.
Like, it was a very early stage idea, wherein basically we were doing some sort of work for some real estate brand that wanted a CSR related angle to something that they want to do is one of their properties, right? So we got to brainstorming, and one of the ideas from this brainstorm was that we should use their parking lots,
Okay.
empty spaces, like a lot of space, you can do whatever you want. What should we do with these parking lots? We should hold educational classes for the underprivileged children
In parking lot?
in parking lots. And
I'm trying to tie two and two together.
yeah. So now just imagine, okay? Like, imagine you're on a brainstorm and this is the idea that comes in. And you're just thinking to yourself, like, imagining a world where underprivileged children sit in a parking lot to take classes under a brand name.
Under a probably like 40-story apartment complex, which they can't afford. That's a little sus.
Bro, that's like that. Dude, like if there was a mountain of bad ideas, that would be like the tip of it.
Yeah,
Like,
did it go through? Did you all pitch it to the client
of
at all?
course not.
No?
Of course
Didn't go.
not. That went in a dumpster.
Just like kill the idea before it got through.
Yeah. And the funniest thing is like even when I was suggesting like guys, there's no way we can do this one idea
Yeah.
because like just think about it, right? We can't do kids in a parking lot having big
It
classes.
sounds like the plot of a bad movie.
Yeah. And then one other writer had to back me up being like, no, there's like just think about it, there's no way. And then I was like, okay, fine. Then you know.
Yeah.
But what about you? What is that
really,
one idea?
Really wild idea, right? It
Yeah.
didn't go through because budgets never meet the wild ideas.
Right.
But I was essentially working for an alcohol brand,
Mm-hmm.
and this brand was in Europe, overseas, and they had a music festival, and they were gonna have their bar at the fest.
Right.
Now the brand's logo is red, the drink is red, so like the whole zone at the festival is red. And they like come up with a very wild idea. You need to wow us. So of course we started thinking out of the box that they put us in like long time ago, right? They're like, stay within the lines, but now they're like wild and wow ideas. So
They
we're
gave
like,
you that liberty.
They gave it to me.
Okay.
And I was like, cool, I'll do that for you. So I'm looking at the lineup of this festival. And the idea was, hey, Doja Cat is performing.
Okay.
You get her to perform on stage with the logo at the back, and she sings Paint the Town Red in her very wild red outfit.
Oh.
And like tie it back to the red of the brand. And oh my God, we pitched it, we put it on the deck, and the clients' faces were just wild. They were like,
Was this in person?
no, it was virtual, but
Okay.
I could see them because they kept their cameras on, and I was like, and they were like, oh wow. I said, yeah, I see, you said wow. You asked us to wow you, and they were like, this is a little much. Maybe you come back down to earth. I'm like, oh, you don't think Doja Cat will work? What if you put like Dua Lipa? She's performing after Doja. They were like, I think you need to redo this.
Fair.
Yeah,
Fair.
yeah. But
Fair.
that was a wild one, which I really wish would have happened. It would have been so cool though. Like just imagine.
That would
Doja
have
Cat
been
in-
very PRable.
Yeah, paint the town red, and your brand is like right behind, and it's a red logo.
Yeah.
It kind of works.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I feel like for alcohol brands also they have that liberty, like
It really depends. Oh my God.
You
Like I think it depends market to market, because you either have full liberty in markets where you can promote alcohol.
Right.
Market like India, you really can't do anything.
You
There are
can't.
certain European markets where you can't advertise at all. So it's a mix of an experience. But this would have been very cool
That would have been very cool.
if they had open minds.
Bro, I could imagine that on your portfolio, man. I'd be like,
Yeah.
damn.
Open minds and open pockets. I think you need these two to execute ideas like this. If only.
Yeah.
So I think one last question for you, Josh, right? It's a bit of a hit or miss.
Okay.
Would you rather work in a toxic environment,
Oh.
but for a great pay,
Uh-huh.
right? Or would you work in an environment that's much friendlier with great banter, but the pay packet isn't the best?
I think I would opt for the second. Given that, so basically for toxic work environment, right? Are you just saying that it's only yelling, but are you also working long hours? Are you also, how
Yeah.
would you clarify a toxic work environment?
I think there's so much to it. It can be long hours. It can be where your upper management doesn't manage things for you between yourself and the teams and the clients. You don't have a barrier in the middle,
Right.
which ideally is their role to manage these situations, and they don't end up doing that for you.
Yeah.
And you're the one bearing the brunt of all the crap that goes on.
Yeah.
I don't know how long you can end up putting up for something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So given that context, I definitely think like having less pay for a better environment goes leaps and bounds for your mental health and like your
Yeah.
physical well-being. Because Lord, like
Yeah.
your whole, imagine you're spending like 10 hours a day, in a work environment where yelling is a constant, where you don't know what time you're gonna go home,
Yeah.
where you don't know what time you're gonna like have your time to like relax and like you do your own
Yeah.
things that you want to do.
What do you do with a big pay packet if you don't have time to spend it?
Exactly. That's facts.
Yeah.
That's straight facts. Like you can get like a lakh as like a monthly salary.
Yeah.
Right. But at the end of the day, if you live till 30, you know,
Burnt out.
Yeah, burnt
Fully.
out, literally.
Yeah.
Like no will to like work
Yeah.
at all as part of any company in general. You know, that in of itself is like a complete drawback compared to like
Yeah.
someone who's, you know, working your 10 to 7, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
7 is the hard stop.
Yeah.
And they live till 60.
I think it's horrible, right? When you work in such environments, automatically your mood is more irritable.
Yeah.
You don't like hanging out with people. People
Yeah.
don't like hanging out with you.
Yeah.
Where do you spend that large pay packet that you're earning because you're either at work 24/7,
Yeah.
you're dealing with the madness of like crappy people.
Yeah.
And what do you do then? Rather, I think you have that balance. You make friends at work. You get that great banter. You find the right people that you can have a great working relationship with. I think that's so much more important.
Yeah, yeah. Especially on the social angle as well, right? Like especially I've heard from personal experiences and all from my own friends that, you know, like they who work like really long hours, they don't have the social battery to like go out.
You can't. You
It-
can't.
it's
Like I've
impossible.
worked in environments like this where I've had to work into the night and into the next day and into the weekends, and it's just not possible because you
Right.
don't have the bandwidth to do that anymore. Because especially I think in our side of our line of work, right, where we're doing networking, we're talking to clients all the time, you're socializing. That's part of your job.
Yeah.
Then when you have to do it outside of work hours, it becomes a
It's-
task.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Like especially like last week was pretty hectic, right?
Yeah.
And even like on the weekend, my friend is texting me like, so what are we doing at 11 in the night? And I was like, bro, I didn't even respond. And the next day he's like, why you didn't respond and all. And I was like, how do I explain? It's not
You
something.
can't, yeah. Then you're like, oh, you're just being like a star person, you're not joining us.
Yeah.
But like, no, I can't. I physically can't get out of my bed post 11 p.m. I just want to do nothing.
Yeah.
Doing nothing is a plan.
Yeah, doing nothing's such a good plan
Yeah.
sometimes. Can I say a hot take? That can be a BTS. Django doesn't support LGBTQ. Yeah, that's it. I'm good. I'm good now.
You have to get that out of your system.
Yeah. I just wanted there to be a tape for it. I hope Shivang doesn't see.
And then when it goes online,
Shit.
Just keep
Can-
that clip and put it on.
yeah, can we like block Shivang and a couple of the other founders? Just like, don't see this.
Yeah, yeah,
Restrict the profile.
yeah. That'd
Let's
be
do
great.
that. Let's do that.
Cool.